Welcome to Subramani. I'm going to talk to a bunch of fresh graduates joining a mutual fund. And one of the topics which I have to handle is why young people should know about wealth management, which set me thinking. And so I wrote an article. So here it is, which is my lecture for day after tomorrow. So young people should understand wealth management because it equips them to deal with finance complications in the day-to-day life, and it helps them to make informed financial decisions only, and that sets the foundation for their long-term financial stability and growth. So where does it start from? It starts from the fact that, see, if your parents and grandparents also have been investing in equities, then you have 90% of your battle won. They understand that returns will fluctuate and all those things will happen. If that is not true, if they have not been investing in equities and they've only been investing in debt and government schemes, etc., you have to rope them in. So that's where it starts. It does not start with just your learning. It starts with your roping in your whole family, saying why equity, what equity returns will do for your family, and how it can build wealth over the next 20, 30, 40 years. And there can be a period of say 7 years where not got any return. The ability to handle pressure during this period comes from making sure that you co-opt your whole family. If you're just 23 years of age and starting, then it means your parents. If you're 30 years of age and you're about to get married or you're already married, then co-opting your spouse is also very important. Maybe even your in-laws should know what you're doing, because if they don't know, they're likely to say, oh, in 7 years, if you had kept it in PPF, this would have happened, you would have got so much return, money would have doubled, all that you will hear. But you have to make sure that you rope them in. And okay, let us look at what are the advantages. So first, building financial discipline. The minute a person decides that wealth creation is his goal or it's her goal, then they tend to think of every expense versus wealth creation, right? So if they have to spend on something, they think, oh, if I increase my SIP, how does it change? And I'm honest to God, I've seen this happen. So kids, when they start their SIP or when they have their goal set, it definitely brings financial discipline. And I'm not very obsessed with that, but it is a good way to control how you think financially. So the first thing, I mean, you will create wealth in the long run, etc. But in the short run, immediately you will learn. When you learn wealth management, you will learn budgeting, you will learn saving, and spending habits will also change, right? And I have always insisted that learning saving is more important than learning investing. If you don't know how to invest, you can put money in an index fund. But if you don't know how to save, only you can teach yourself. There's nobody wanting to teach you how to save, right? So that is completely up to you. And early discipline into these activities means you won't get into wrong amount of debt, wrong purpose of debt, etc. And that means mindset of saying I want to buy this, so I will invest for it, I will save for it, buy it after 12 months. So that impulsive spending also comes down. Once you understand the power of compounding, the problem with power of compounding is you understand power of compounding only when you see it happening in your portfolio, and by the time you understand, wow, compounding really works, maybe you're 50 years of age, you've lost 30 years of possible compounding. But if you start early at 22, 23, if somebody sits with you and gives you example that Ram started investing at 22, Sham started investing at 32 or whatever, and therefore at 65 who had more money, these kind of examples, or if you had invested 1,000 rupees per month in Google or $1,000 in Google, what would it have become? Or Wipro or any company that you want, right? Once you see all that, then you realize the power of compounding. But you should hear all these stories, and you'll hear these stories only when you have a wealth oriented mindset. So creating that mindset to create wealth is important. Only then you will hear compounding stories. Otherwise you will hear things like, oh, you live life only once, go spend your money kind of thing. It's not true. navigating economic uncertainty. The younger generation, which means if you're 22 years, 23 years today, you are going to see more uncertainty than we did, and we saw more uncertainty than our parents did. For my, say, parents' generation, I mean somebody born in the 1930s, they did not see so much of economic uncertainty. So my dad took up a job and stayed on in that job. He did very well and retired from that job. So so there was no question of switching careers, not being forced to switch careers, nothing like that happened. Whereas you will see much more of economic uncertainty. You will maybe hold 3-4 jobs of 6-7 years each. You may not retire at 60, you may retire at 52, you may retire at 65, or you may retire at 52 and then have a second career till the age of 65. Sometimes you may be forced to retire, sometimes you may retire out of boredom, all those things. You may want to do something on your own. So being financially independent becomes very important. I'm not talking of FIRE here. I don't think you need to retire early just because you're financially independent. But getting financially independent means you don't have to worry as to what happens if you lose this job, etc. So those things will not matter. And of course, then there are other benefits, like you will achieve your financial goals, your life goals, whether it is getting married, whether it is having children, buying a house, travel, own retirement, parental retirement, looking after a sibling who does not have enough saving, and being a safety net for some of your friends, colleagues, etc. Those things, that skill and that ability comes only from being financially independent, having enough oxygen for yourself. You heard it in the plane. First, put the oxygen mask on yourself before you start helping others. So only when you're financially stable can you think of helping out to others. It could even be setting up a temple, setting up a food relief camp for people, whatever you want to do. All those things happen only because you're financially stable. It also means in this journey you will meet people who will help you avoid common pitfalls. You will not meet a bunch of people who say, oh, let's go and blow some money, etc. Here is a set where you will meet, will say, what can we do to improve our wealth, So you will do that. What are the common pitfalls? I mean, largely financial illiteracy or lack of financial literacy, which leads to mistakes like overspending, neglecting retirement saving, So somebody who starts saving at 23 obviously saves much smarter than the person starting at 32, and who is much better off than the guy who is starting at 42, You will not fall for scams. You may not have money to give to friends who come and say, can you give me some money and I'll return it next week. You say, no, all my money is gone into SIP. I just don't have money to lend. You say that 3-4 times and then people say, oh, this guy is mad, he's just saving all his money, he's not spending, whatever it is, Then wealth management knowledge also helps you to spot red flags for your parents, for your cousins, for your immediate family, So a lot of people call me within my family and ask, should I make this investment, should I not make this investment, Those kind of calls. Retirement planning, once upon a time, let's say my grandfather's generation was lucky enough to work with the government and get a pension for the rest of their life. My grandfather lived long, he lived till the age of 80, so he drew pensions for 25 years, retirement age was 55, but today none of us have that pension, so we all have to create our own pension. So when you start early, creating these pensions becomes a little easier. And also, I mean, when I say being financially independent is good, it is not meant for you to retire early. You could have some entrepreneurial ideas, you could say I want to do this business, etc. That solidity also comes from the fact that you have started saving early or investing early, So by grasping wealth management concepts early, you can avoid financial stress. There is no doubt about that. Build up your wealth steadily. Wealth creation process is a slow and steady process, If somebody says, okay, to create 1 crore in 15 years, if you at 20%, you need to put only 15,000 rupees or 18,000 rupees or something like that, and somebody else comes and says, no, but at 9% you may have to put 20,000 rupees. I think you might as well take the second step because it's more certain than the first step. If you create 15 crores before that, great, but if you don't, you are sure by targeting 9%, you're better off than targeting 20%. So these are concepts which you will learn going on. in life. So these are some of the reasons why I think you should learn about wealth management. Thank you.